I've seen it. I'm sure you've seen it. There's videos going around about the truth about ISO for professional photographers. Anyway, I watched the video. Wasn't for me, as you know, not a techie kind of person, but was a good video nonetheless. I'll try and tag the person when I share this because lots of great information presented in a very logical way. However, I have a slightly different take on things. Now, as a commercial photographer, I shoot a lot in the studio. ISO rarely comes into the equation. When I say rarely, it still does. We don't always get to shoot at the best ISO. So let me grab my camera. The truth about professional photographers and ISO is firstly that we don't care. And the reason we don't care about what ISO we use is because we do not have a choice. And let me explain this to you because it's a very simple and also fundamental part of photography. What my sensor can do and what it can manage and handle is not my business. That's what that does. What I can do though is take a picture. My client goes, take this photograph. I get my camera. Obviously it's not on a tripod or not this camera at all. I get my lens ready. I get it all set up. We focus it. It's all locked off. And they're like, we want it in focus from here to here. I'm like, great. Well, in that case, at this focal length on this sensor from here to here, f16. That's what we need. Brilliant. Okay, we're using flash, 160th of a second. That's my shutter speed. Okay, so we want to have it so it's this bright on this side and this dark on that side. That means my flash power needs to be 1600 watts at 4 meters over there. It is painting by numbers. It is fully calculatable. So much so, the shoot we're doing next week, I've drawn it mathematically out with all the lines and all the distances and apertures so my assistants can go in, get the old light meter out, which is the only time we really use one, meter the scene, get the lights in the right place, and it will look exactly how I want it to. ISO, that's my variable. I can't change my light power because I need that power to have the fall off correct. Can't change the light distance because I need that again for the fall off. Can't change the modifier because everything has to look perfect. So we're at 100 ISO. Now, obviously that's the real easy one. 100 ISO is great, although before this one it was 160 was better. Anyway, this other video does that side of things much better than this. But let's try another scenario. This shot here, the drink splashing. We have to use a very short flash duration. Okay, so we've got a glass, the liquid splashing, it needs to be in focus. Again, shutter speed, 160th, it's all we can do with the flash. The flash power, very, very low because we need to freeze the action. That's how T-scores work. We then need to have it all in focus. And on this one here, we needed F10. Now the problem is now at 100 ISO, we're pitch black. So we're at 640 ISO because that is the correct ISO for the amount of light we have. Me worrying about how much noise is at 640 ISO is pointless because I have no choice. Now, of course, if I knew about the shot in advance and these issues, I could have got like 15 Broncolor packs and rented them for the day, but we didn't have them. We had 4 lights only, not 15. So we had the 4 lights, that was it, had to get the shot done. This is where we're at. Does it ruin the photograph? No. And this camera here is notoriously, apparently, I'm yet to see it, useless above 400 ISO. I would have no qualm using the Canon 5DSR up to 640 ISO for anything commercial billboardy. Maybe 1250 at a push, and now that Lightroom's got its new noise reduction, maybe I'd go a little bit further, but it is not a problem. Noise is not a problem until you get really, really high ISO. Like modern cameras nowadays are like, are you really concerned about noise? And the noise reduction software, if it does bother you, that's pretty good. But what I often do, if I'm allowed to, because obviously I work commercially and we're at the mercy of a client, I add grain. Once you've added grain, you can't see the noise because the grain is in the way. It's a good way to hide it. When I used to shoot reportage and documentary work back on the 5D Mark I days, where 600 ISO was like golf ball sized noise, just add a grain to it. It looked beautiful. I know photographers shoot at 1250 ISO because they like the noise, because it gives it a bit more texture and it's not clinical, crisp, clean digital work. Now, my actual work commercially really suits itself to 100 ISO, sort of crisp, clean, maximum, you know, everything there. But if I have to change my ISO to get the photograph, I will, and it will not even bother me. I won't flinch. I shot on a phase 1 recently at 800 ISO. Didn't even check to see what the noise was like because I had no choice. If I was working as a documentary photographer today, I'd probably buy a camera, a mirrorless one, which did high ISO very well. But because I work in a studio and I work commercially, I don't need it. Anything up to 640 ISO is probably the max I'll ever need. And pretty much all cameras, they do that. 800 ISO, 1000 ISO, that's the limit of what I'm ever going to need in a studio. And that's in rare cases, in rare instances. And there's workarounds to it as well. If it really does bother you, for that drink shot, I could have used my tilt shift camera, my Cambo Actus, and had it at a f4 and moved the plane of focus so I can get it all sharp. But I didn't have it, so I didn't do that. So we had 640 ISO. And the truth about ISO is professional photographers don't care. We don't look at noise. I don't look at what the noise is like at 100%. I don't zoom all the way in and go, is it sharp? It just doesn't bother us. As long as the image is correct for what the client wants, that's all we need. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.